Morning everybody. My name is Edward Syson. I work for Cadent as the Safety and Strategy Officer. Up until about 6 weeks ago I was running the operations, so it is a privilege and a pleasure to be here, and a slightly daunting one. This is the first time I'll be trying many of this out on a live audience. So why am I here? I mean, essentially I'd reiterate one of the points that Frank made, that the Northwest has pretty much everything that you need for a hydrogen economy. You have the assets, you have the leadership, and you have the geography, and it all comes together here in a way that it doesn't really anywhere else in the country. And whilst I'm going to be talking about the distribution aspects of that, primarily the pipelines and how we shift the gas around, how we might structure that, what this is really about, I think, to echo Frank's point, is about bringing all of that together. So whilst this may sound like a Cadent project, actually what this really is a collaboration to bring everything together to make it all work together. So broadly what I'm going to do is cover, what is it we're about, how does that grow to cover the wider network, where are we so far, and what's it going to take to get it over the line going forwards. Firstly, a little bit about Cadent. So our role is gas distribution, so that's transmission of gas to large volume users, industry typically, and then distribution out into the domestic world. About 85% of the homes in the UK are heated by gas, so it's a very wide coverage. In terms of the geography there, we're the sort of slightly pale yellow spot in the middle, helpfully covering the northwest, otherwise perhaps I wouldn't be here, and all the way out to the east, so really the centre of the country. Responsible for about 80,000 kilometres of pipelines, about £9 billion of assets. Very heavily regulated business, regulated economically through Ofgem, but also safety with the HSE, which I'll come on to. Hynet, the main project I'm talking about here, is one of many things that we and the wider gas industry are focused on in terms of getting the hydrogen economy up and running and productive. Some you'll see along the bottom there. If you come across those, do come and see us. Happy to talk about any of them going forwards. So what is it we're talking about? Really, it's an integrated concept around the hydrogen economy. So it's bringing everything together where we can. So power for industry particularly in the Liverpool region, heat for homes, either directly through hydrogen or through a blended mix of hydrogen and methane. Leveraging hydrogen production in the region, as Frank has already taken us through, and the capabilities for carbon capture and storage. As Frank mentioned, it's not just carbon capture and storage, but actually the facilities we've got here for gaseous storage. And to build on some of that, Cadent, for example, already stores methane as part of our normal gas distribution network at INEOS facilities over in Holford. Again, not new. But there's a social angle to this. We have talked very clearly about the absolutely compelling need for carbon reductions and really getting all of our heat requirements onto a carbon neutral negative carbon. But it's not just about that. There's a competitive angle to this too. We are going through quite a bit of upheaval in this country. Lots of people are thinking about where do they put their industry going forwards, where's Brexit going to take us for one, and actually having a compelling vision for the Northwest, where you can come here and run a power-intensive industry, low carbon, for the foreseeable future is a really compelling prospect when we're competing for jobs and livelihoods of our people. The Northwest's got an awful lot going for it. In my view, it's the ideal location. But I say it's not just about gas distribution. Actually, to make this work, we need to join lots and lots of things together. So picking up in high motion at the moment, vehicles, there is absolutely a role for hydrogen on some of our most demanding vehicles, trains and HGVs to name but two. And actually to make that work, we're going to need to transport hydrogen through a distribution system. It is far cheaper than shipping it around on the back of trailers and much more convenient. I think for me, essentially what we are now trying to do is to bring all of this together along with the leadership and drive it forwards. So just to outline what the project looks like, I hope you can see this towards the back. Off in the bay, possibility for carbon capture and storage. That really opens up the opportunity for us, or for others in fact, for low carbon or zero carbon hydrogen production. So electrolysis is one method. There are others that create hydrogen, create carbon dioxide, and you need to be able to store it somewhere. That's an absolutely viable technology. Again, not new. It's used elsewhere in the world already. So you now have a supply of low carbon hydrogen. Well, what are you going to do with that? Well, we've got local storage, or the capability for local storage in this area, and the industry, which is probably the first place you would go as the main users of hydrogen. So trying to decarbonise your high demand, high energy usage industries. So we've got support for industry, and we have a large domestic load in this area as well. Now, this is where linking several projects together becomes important. So currently we have a project going on with Keele University where we're blending 20% hydrogen in with the existing gas supply. That goes live in September, in the sense that we're actually supplying the blended gas in September. And what we're trying to do there is to prove that you don't need to change anything at all on the domestic side to make that happen. So that's demonstrating that it's safe, that it's efficient, that you can manage the commercials around it. And that's going live in September. So, start of a 10, you start to decarbonise the domestic supply. And what we're trying to do here is to bring everything together to give a platform for development. You can do a few bits of this in isolation, but it's really when you start to bring it together that it all starts to take off. And one of the key things for us in here is, if you have hydrogen, we want to be able to provide a network that you can put it into to connect you to users who can use it. That's really what this is all about. In terms of scale, so to start off with, so very large industrial users, probably feed about 10 of those early on, take out about 1.5 million tonnes of carbon dioxide per annum. Blending at 20% or so gets through to about 2 million customers. So that's about a tenth of the domestic supply of the whole of the UK. To do that requires about 100 kilometres of pipeline, something like that. So relatively modest in the scale of the gas distribution and gas transmission businesses. Just to get your eye in on that, we're currently replacing about 1,800 kilometres a year of Victorian mains. So different pipes, different technologies, but to give you a scale and to echo some of Frank's sound bites, this is not new. This is stuff we know how to do. So really it's about bringing all of that together, and we think as a distribution network we have a key role to play in facilitating that. So how are we getting on? It's a mixed picture, but actually really starting to make progress. So I think I described the policy element as a little slow, but we're starting to get that together now with significant moves, actually, and helpful moves in this area. I think we've been somewhat distracted and somewhat busy with other areas of national policy. But our aim is to be there with a compelling product when we get the focus back. And actually on that, the Committee for Climate Change has been really helpful in bringing us back to what are we really about and setting those really challenging goals, challenging ambitions for us. And to shorten the timeline to zero emissions. I think it's a key part for us. I've mentioned hydrogen homes, so that's starting this September. Good progress on that. And once we've got it established at Keele University, working with Northern Gas Networks, we'll be running larger scale pilots and actually going to at-scale rollout over the next few years. Power for industry, so hydrogen, very much included in regional energy proposals. That's a big step forward for us. And the debate around hydrogen production, carbon capture and storage, we think is moving forwards with actually some really quite helpful messaging coming out on that one. Job creation I've talked about, but I think for me, the kind of underlying, the basis of this is hydrogen is increasingly being supported and increasingly discussed as part of the solution. And for me, the reason for that really is if we're going to do this at a UK level, you have to be able to move huge quantities of energy around the country and actually ultimately around the world. And hydrogen as a vector for that is a really compelling proposition. So what's it going to take? What's still to be done? What have we still got to get on to? Well, I think to echo some of Steve's comments from earlier on, it's really time to start getting on with this. Time to really start moving. I don't think actually it's time to stop talking. I think there's still a lot of talking to do, but it is definitely time to get moving. For us, the next few years are going to be about getting the actual demonstrations through to prove to people that it works, to enable us to work with the health and safety executive, for example, and prove that it is just as safe as what we're currently doing. We have no reason to believe it isn't. I mean, echo Frank again, it's all been done. but actually we've still got to go through those steps and prove it. Key part for us and in the gas industry, and one of the reasons I'm delighted to be here today, wider than that, is we have to work together. And I think that's one of the key areas where the Northwest is really strong, which is that leadership, all the way down, political level, all the way down to the communities. We can get aligned around this and make it happen. Significant element of education. We do have to bring the public and our customers with us on this, and I think they will have, and they should have, a really significant voice in their future energy mix. That's going to be really important to us. The final point, as we go into our price controls and our funding arrangement, we have to get all of that sorted out. That's an issue that the gas distribution industry can sort out. This isn't necessarily a problem for the Northwest to deal with on their own. This is a UK problem, and we'll be leveraging all of the avenues across the UK. So thank you. Hopefully that's given you a brief overview of what we're about and why we're doing it. But any further questions, particularly any of those technical ones, do come and see us afterwards. Thank you.